19% more time exercising. So there you go. If you're one of your New Year's resolution is to work out, start now, start being grateful, and then you'll be a lot more motivated. 10% less physical pain. So gratitude instead of a leave. 8% more sleep. I could use that. 25% better sleep quality. So another physical one. Gratitude visit reduces depressive symptoms by 35% for several weeks. Pretty significant. It lowered those symptoms by 30+% for as long as people continue to do it. So it's a state of being. It's a continual practice. Also physical benefit, patients with hypertension, high blood pressure, were instructed to count their blessings once per week. There was a significant decrease in systolic blood pressure. And so a lot of benefits on the physical side. On the social side, they say gratitude generates social capital. So 2 studies with 243 participants, those who were 10% more grateful had an average of 17.5% more friends. So gratitude increases friends too. There was something I read a while back that talked about how when you pass, it's harder to make friends as an adult. As a kid, I don't know, do you remember as kids, you can walk up to a kid on the playground and decide, we're going to be friends now, and you're like, oh, okay, I guess we are. If you do that as an adult, it doesn't always work so well. Adults, you say that to an adult and they look at you like you've grown a third arm. It doesn't always go so well. But that's it. Gratitude increases social capital. So friendliness, it all goes hand in hand. Gratitude is also very correlated with optimism. So people with pessimistic natures, gratitude can really help if you're trying to find the positive way to look at something. And then materialism is strongly correlated with reduced well-being. So by being materialistic, kind of reduces our overall well-being. And increases rates of mental disorder. Gratitude reduces materialism, so it has that inadvertent effect as well. Isn't it interesting that right after Thanksgiving we have Black Friday?
Oh, yeah.
Right after Day of Thankfulness, we go to our Day of Materialism. So if we can carry that gratitude in a little bit more. So what I'd kind of like to talk about kind of goes along with that idea of Thanksgiving and its placement, when Thanksgiving is. I think there's a pretty awesome thing in that Thanksgiving is celebrated exactly when it is. So, I have a confession. I love Christmas. I love Christmas music. I have, historically, at some point in my life, I have started listening to Christmas music in July once. Probably won't do that again, because by the time Christmas comes around, I was sick of it, and then you can't escape the Christmas music because it's everywhere. So, but I do love the music. I am one of those who, if I could start decorating in September, I would. I love it. I love Christmas. But I also love Thanksgiving. And I know that we have this, you notice, right? What is it? Even before Halloween is over, even as they're putting out candy and costumes, there's already Christmas stuff on the shelves. Have y'all noticed that?
Right.
You go to any store, it's already there. Right. The end of July, kind of mid-August now, we're getting earlier and earlier. And so I know there's a lot of people who talk about the idea that we just shove Thanksgiving out of the way, that we go from October to Christmas, and it just jumps that way. And so there was a time I decided, for a few years, I thought, I'm not going to do this for Thanksgiving. It's a wonderful holiday. I'm not going to do anything Christmassy until Thanksgiving is over. I'm not putting up a tree. I'm not going to listen to one Christmas song. I'm going to celebrate Thanksgiving. And I'll tell you, those were miserable years. I did not enjoy those years. I did not enjoy Thanksgiving. I did not enjoy Christmas. Now, I'm not telling you to do exactly what I did on either way here. But the idea was, I was so intent on separating the two holidays. I was going to have Thanksgiving, and then I was going to have Christmas, and never the two shall meet. They were going to be separate holidays. And I realized I was kind of doing myself a disservice by separating these two holidays and making them almost opposites, almost making them battle one another, because they were never meant to do that. So what I'd like to talk to you about tonight is seeing Thanksgiving through Christmas-colored glasses. Amen. There's something about expectancy that I love. Seeing Thanksgiving, knowing that Christmas is about to come, changed my outlook on both holidays, because I saw Thanksgiving as a prelude to something great. I had something to really be grateful for. And then Christmas gave me a new appreciation for Thanksgiving. So knowing those two work together was great for me. I wrote this a few years ago. I'm taking a few pieces out of it. There's something about the arrival of an honored guest that is joyous. I find myself elated at the idea. My mind goes into chronic overload as I plan. I stress over tiny details. Intense thought colors everything when an honored guest is due to arrive. I work harder than ever to get my own affairs in order when an honored guest is due to arrive. Everything has to be clean and in order before that guest can arrive. Everybody has a place in the conversation. We tell everybody about it when someone is coming and we're excited about it. Everybody has a part in that. We tell everybody from the most significant to some of the people would think is the least significant. We tell them all. Everyone has a place. And so, but along with that, I start to think about how exciting that is, that I really get to be a part of this. And I'm overwhelmed with gratitude because there's something about expectancy that helps to bring on gratitude. And I'm filled with so much thankfulness when I know that an honored guest is coming. Amen. That expectancy of what I know just puts me in a grateful frame of mind. So for me, there's something about it. When I know this great thing is coming and what it represents, my gratitude just increases. And I think that's a great thing. Amen. I've found in a lot of cases, Thanksgiving, gratitude can help us to lessen a sense of entitlement. We don't feel entitled that we just deserve things as much when we're grateful. A spirit of gratitude says, I can't believe I get this. This thing is mine. I'm so happy. I'm shocked. Our stewardship, we take care of things better when gratitude's a part of that. I've worked in singles ministry a lot. It's a wonderful ministry and I love it. And I've seen all kinds of different people. I've seen some, though, who come through, and the occasional one. Most people are not like that. But there's the occasional person who is desperate for relationships. And I talk about, I just wish I had a guy, or I wish I had a girl, or whatever else. And I look, and I think that's, I think that's a normal emotion. But part of what I want to say is, but what are you doing with the relationships that are in your life right now? If we're good stewards of everything, we're good stewards of that. And I've kind of thought about that as well. I mean, one day I would like to get married too. I think that's, that'd be great. But I've kind of looked at my life and I've thought, God's given me some great stuff. That would be wonderful. But if that opportunity never comes into my life, I could live with that. Because what he's given now is wonderful. The relationships he's put into my life now, I don't deserve any of those. I don't deserve the family I have, but he gave them to me anyway. I don't deserve friendships. I don't deserve this church. This church is amazing. I don't deserve any of it, but he's brought it into my life anyway. And so I'm just overwhelmingly grateful for that. And it kind of keeps that entitlement away. Some of the annoyances that we have with other people, when we're grateful they're in our lives, some of that just kind of fades away. That fact that, okay, nobody's doing it right now, so I can mention it. When somebody just clicks a pin incessantly and that drives you crazy, when you think about how grateful you are that they're in your life, suddenly that doesn't bother you quite so much. I say that because I'm a pin clicker, so I feel like I can get away with that one. We become grateful. Our entitlement is lessened. Gratitude also paves the way for forgiveness. And I think forgiveness is one of the greatest things that happens at Christmas time. Because Christmas, the whole idea of God coming to earth was to pave the way for forgiveness. And so the fact that gratitude comes before is significant. Over the weekend, I came across a story of an amazing lady by the name of Eva Moses Core. She was a child during World War II. She was a Jewish child, a twin, and her family was taken to a concentration camp. She talked about her experience of being led there, about being separated from her parents. She turned her back for 1 second. Her dad and her older sister had vanished. When they found out she was a twin, they asked her, Mom, are you twins? Are these girls twins? And she said, is it a good or a bad thing if they are? And the Nazi soldier said it's a good thing. And so she said, yes, they are. He immediately took the twins and put them in one area, put the mother somewhere else, and led her away to her death. And that was the last time she saw her mother. She later realized that being a twin at a Nazi concentration camp wasn't a great thing, because Dr. Mengele, one of his favorite things to do was experiment on twins. So she spent the next several years as a human experiment. They injected drugs into her. They tested levels of pain to see how much she could endure. She was 9 years old. She's just a little kid. She went through all of this. She survived it. At one point, they injected her with something, and she thought she would die, and she could barely move, and the pain and the nausea and everything was overwhelming. And they took her to a hospital on the concentration camp, and Dr. Mengele himself came in and looked at her and said, "Oh, what a shame. She's only a child. She only has 2 weeks to live." And imagine hearing that at 9 years old. And so she said in that moment, she decided, "I'm going to survive this somehow." And she crawled around and decided, I will not be taken by this sickness. And she didn't. She survived it. Her sister had been hurt in the time that she was away, and she didn't ever want to talk about it. She said years later they discussed it, and she found out there had been more experiments done on her sister while she was away, kind of trying to recover. They tested, she was having kidney problems, and they found out that her sister's kidneys had never grown beyond the size of those that a 10-year-old girl would have. Somehow it had stunted the growth, and she eventually died of that. This lady went through so many things, and she talked about it, and she began to go around and talk about her experiences and do work, and she was invited by a gentleman in Boston to come speak, and he said, "But he said, what would be great is if when you came, you could also have a Nazi doctor come and speak." And she thought, that's kind of crazy. She thought, I don't even know any Nazi doctors. But then she remembered hearing about one who lived kind of in an area where she could access. And so she wrote to him and she asked him if he'd be willing to go to Boston. He said no, but that she was welcome to come to his home and talk to him there. And so just this whole story amazes me. She goes to his home and begins to talk with him about this experience. And he was a doctor in the camp where she was, and she asked him about his experiences, and he said, "It was the worst time of my life." He said, "It's the black mark on my life. I look back with nothing but regret. It torments me every day knowing the things that I did." And so they talked about it, and he agreed to write a letter talking about the things he did. She asked him, "Did you know about the gas chambers?" And he said, "Yes, I knew." And she said, "Did you know what was going on in those gas chambers?" He said, "I knew." And she said, "How did you handle it when it was over?" And he said, "I wrote one death certificate. For all the people who died, I just wrote one." And so she said, "Would you be willing to state that publicly?" And so he wrote a letter. And in a memorial, he read that letter, got ready to. And she said that when he wrote that, it was so precious to her because it was the word of a Nazi doctor stating what he did. And she said, "Anytime I meet a revisionist who tries to tell me the Holocaust didn't happen, I have that letter as proof, and I can say this is what this doctor told me." And that in itself meant so much to her. She said, "I wanted to find a way to thank him." That amazes me. I wanted to thank him for that letter. Despite all he did, I wanted to thank him. She said, "I wondered what I could do to show my gratitude to this doctor." And she said, "I decided to forgive him because I thought that would be the best way to show my thankfulness." And so she went on to write a letter forgiving the doctor for what he had done because she knew that would bring him some peace. In the process, she showed it to an English teacher she had. She said, "I'm good with speaking English, I'm terrible at spelling it." So she ran it by a teacher, and the teacher said, "It seems to me you're not angry with this doctor who you met at this particular doctor." She said, "It seems to me you're angry still with Dr. Mengele who did all these things." And she said, "Have you forgiven him?" And Miss Kors said, I don't think I can forgive him. I'm not ready for that. And she said, "Go home tonight, and I want you to pretend he's there and see what it would feel like if you just said, 'I forgive you.'" So she said she went home that night. She took down a dictionary and wrote a lot of mean things. She pretended he was there. She said that. But then she said, "But Dr. Mengele, I forgive you." And in that moment, she said she felt released and freed of all of that. And she realized she was no longer a victim because she could actually take the power to forgive, and she could do that. And it freed her life in a way that it had never done before. See, just side note with all of this, forgiveness, somebody said, it's the gift that you give yourself. It doesn't excuse the person from what they did, but it releases you from having to carry the weight of it. And you find freedom in that. Mark Twain had a beautiful quote. He said that forgiveness is the scent the violet leaves on the heel of the one who crushed it. Incredible thing. But it began for her with gratitude. All that was done, she said, I wanted to show my gratitude, so I decided to forgive. Because gratitude paves the way for so many more things. Gratitude puts us in that mindset where all of these other gifts we can receive go hand in hand with it. It's a beautiful thing. I don't think it's an accident that Thanksgiving comes before Christmas. All of the gifts, all of the wonderful things we love about the holiday. I'm so glad that we have a time right before it that gives us that perspective, because it could be so easy to get lost in the materialism of the gift buying and getting and receiving. But we have time right before that says, remember to be thankful. Before you go into this, before you receive this great thing, remember to be thankful for it. That's an important way to start. I want to kind of finish up with a little bit of the story of Thanksgiving. You've probably heard some of this before, but forgive me if you have. I love to read it every year, actually. Thanksgiving has been celebrated nationally off and on since 1789, when George Washington made a proclamation. But it was not celebrated every year necessarily. It was kind of an off and on thing. Thomas Jefferson didn't celebrate it, and so it kind of fell out of trend. It was intermittent. Some sources say it was mostly just celebrated up in New England. The American South had never even heard of the holiday. Some people celebrated, states generally did it whenever they felt like it. Some people celebrated in October, some in January, some would just forget and not do it at all. It was kind of not a priority. Until there was a lady by the name of Sarah Josepha Hale, who's actually also the author of Mary Had a Little Lamb, the nursery rhyme. The same lady who got Thanksgiving nationally declared a national holiday is the lady who wrote Mary Had a Little Lamb. So I don't know what that connection is, but I just like it's there. So she saw the need for it. She started campaigning for a national holiday in 1846. I think that's interesting. She started it before the nation split into a civil war, 1846. She spent the next 17 years trying to get people to unify in a day of thanks. 17 years on this quest. She wrote letters to 5 presidents: Zachary Taylor, Millard Fillmore, Franklin Pierce, James Buchanan. Finally, she got to Abraham Lincoln. It wasn't before Lincoln's presidency that it was really acknowledged. But Lincoln, when he decided to establish this as a national holiday, did so in the year 1863. In the middle of the Civil War, in the middle of the bloodshed, in the middle of brokenness, he said, I think this is the time for us to be thankful. Nation was split apart. Brothers were killing brothers. And Lincoln said, I think we need to take time to be thankful. It's a pretty awesome thing that he did it when he did. In the middle of the war, he proclaimed a national day of thanksgiving and praise to be celebrated on the 4th Thursday in November. The war would go for another 2 years. It wasn't until 1865 that it ended. Lincoln's famous Gettysburg Address actually would be delivered 1 week before the holiday was officially celebrated for the first time. Right before it. His proclamation is kind of, I'm paraphrasing, or I've taken a few parts out to shorten it, but this is basically what he said. The year that is drawing towards its close has been filled with the blessings of fruitful fields and healthful skies. To these bounties, which are so constantly enjoyed that we are prone to forget the source from which they come, others have been added, which are of so extraordinary a nature that they cannot fail to penetrate and soften even the heart which is habitually insensible to the ever-watchful providence of Almighty God. No human counsel hath devised, nor hath any mortal worked out these great things. They are the gracious gifts of the Most High God, who, while dealing with us in anger for our sins, hath nevertheless remembered mercy. It has seemed to me fit and proper that they should be solemnly, reverently, and gratefully acknowledged, as with one heart and voice, by the whole American people. I do therefore invite my fellow citizens in every part of the United States, and those who are at sea and those who are sojourning in foreign lands, to set apart and observe the last Thursday of November next as a day of thanksgiving and praise to our beneficent Father who dwelleth in the heavens. I recommend to them that while offering up the ascriptions justly due to him for such singular deliverances and blessings, they do also, with humble penitence for our national perverseness and disobedience, commend to his tender care all those who have become widows, orphans, mourners, or sufferers in the lamentable civil strife, the Civil War, in which we are unavoidably engaged, and fervently implore the interposition of the Almighty hand to heal the wounds of the nation and to restore it as soon as may be consistent with divine purposes, to the full enjoyment of peace, harmony, tranquility, and the union. And then he signs it the 3rd day of October, 1863. A few things that I think are fascinating in that. We talk a lot about the first Thanksgiving was a time when people came together and were grateful for survival. But here, this proclamation of Thanksgiving came at a time when they weren't surviving necessarily, when people were dying, when it seemed like everything was about to end, when the country as they know it had been split apart, when two factions were fighting each other like crazy. He said, let's be thankful. He said, let's remember that despite our sins, God showed mercy. That sounds a whole lot like being thankful for Calvary and being thankful for Bethlehem. He put it right before. I don't think it's an accident that out of all the times of the year, he could have set Thanksgiving. He chose a month before Christmas. He chose that time right there. The war didn't end for 2 years again, but when it did, the nation had a new holiday, had reasons to be thankful, and it had a holiday that could kind of bring it together again, could unite them in gratitude. Because gratitude paves the way for many more things. The miracle of all of the turmoil, the war, he set aside a day. When brothers were fighting brothers, families were ripped apart, he saw the need to be thankful. When the nation seemed broken beyond repair, two sides were fighting each other, he saw a need to be thankful. And I look at this and I think that's not so different from where we are right now. We still have a country that feels like it's being torn apart by two sides that seem to butt heads a lot. We still live in a country where families are torn apart on every side. But there's still a need to be thankful. Amen. There's still something great. I've heard some people say that they wish Thanksgiving came at a different time so we could maybe celebrate it properly, so that it wouldn't be sandwiched between Christmas and Halloween and it wouldn't get overlooked. But I kind of think it's such a beautiful thing that it comes at a time when maybe it's not celebrated, but man, is it needed. We never need it more than we need it right then. Because it's a bridge between two places, which is a whole lot like what Calvary was. Might not get all of the glamour, but it gets so much more. So it comes before Christmas. It's not the ancient tradition, but it's an amazing one. I love that we celebrate it that way, because when my heart is overflowing with gratitude, I feel like I'm more thankful than ever that Jesus chose to come. It sets the stage for it. I let gratitude sweep out all of the remnants of negativity that have accumulated throughout the year, clean out my heart, and I'm so ready to worship God for that arrival, for that expectation. Amen. He didn't get all of that the first time he came to our world, but as we celebrate it every year, after a time of gratitude, he gets to come and be received in the spirit that he deserved in the first place. It also works the other way. Because I start to see Thanksgiving like this, it takes on a deeper meaning to me. My gratitude just appears when I start to think about what Christmas is and what it meant. I don't have to think of things to be thankful for, because when you just think of Bethlehem and Calvary, there's just so much. Christmas-colored glasses. They breathe life into Thanksgiving for me. So, personally, I've decided not to separate them. I'm not going to hold them apart because they really complement each other so beautifully. Pilgrims and Native Americans sat down to forge bonds of brotherhood. Shepherds and kings came together to kneel at the bed of a newborn child. It's always brought unusual things together. So, in my future holiday celebrations, I encourage the commingling of both Thanksgiving and Christmas, letting each one enhance the other, so that I can enjoy that beautiful blend of gratitude and grace. I'm thankful that it comes when it does. Thankful for the gratitude that precedes everything else, because we need it. And so, I'm so grateful for the sacrifice, and it puts me in the right frame of mind to appreciate that all of that God's done for us.